Live on the interwebs, FightShow 9, Happy Turkey Day, presented by Pull No Punches Apparel, 717 Surplus. Happy Turkey Day, bub, for all our American people watching. Happy Turkey Day for all the rest of you. Happy Thursday.
How you doing, man? MMA never stops. Busy week.
It's always fucking something. Wait, I think we got a couple people jumped in. Tonight, special Thanksgiving episode. It's not Thanksgiving in Canada, so we brought in a real live Canadian. Two-time world champion kickboxer, two-time an authentic Canadian, two-time world champion kickboxer, real live Canadian, two-time world champion kickboxer, resides in the beautiful country of Canada, slated in the ring, and now he's helping businesses up north slay it with their marketing, helping businesses grow, and he's always giving. Sandy Pembroke, everybody, or should I say Sandy effing Pembroke?
How you doing, gentlemen?
What's up, buddy? Live from Halifax, Nova Scotia, right? Halifax?
That's it. You got it. We might have to tell the world where that is, not everybody knows.
Well, I learned this week, and I kind of already knew this, but I got a little refresher from Professor Sandy. AST, Bill, do you know there's an AST time zone?
What's that? Like Atlanta?
They're an hour. Yeah, they're an hour ahead of us.
Oh, I don't know stuff like that. Come on.
but you got the Atlantic right there, Bill, like right out of the gate. Nice.
Okay, well, that's the only thing I could think of.
Karma's back. Right, the kids. Happy Thanksgiving, bro. Make sure you give me a shout tomorrow. We got to talk about some stuff. Hi, Dad. So what's up, guys? Sandy, you want to give a little bit of your spiel, let the people know?
I mean, you said it there, a couple of world titles in kickboxing, and ended up fighting for but not winning the Canadian professional boxing title, actually. So did a 10-round decision there against Frank the Hammer White a few years back, probably about 10 years ago. Am I the first retired or maybe retired guy you've had on the show? Or,
I mean, Bill's retired. Bill was a professional fighter, and then he's a retired fighter and ref, so.
That's right.
Yeah.
Still reffing, though, eh, Bill?
You're the first retired Canadian.
No, Sandy, I dipped out from the refereeing just because I legitimately did. I get asked to come back all the time. I ran into Greg Serb at a show, who's a former executive director here in PA. He said, anytime I want to come back, I can. But I did everything I wanted to do, refereed UFCs, multiple Bellators, and I wasn't going to take the next step to be like a Las Vegas ref or anything like that. And man, I gave up a lot of time with my daughters over the years for that sport. I just want to spend time with friends and family, and I can run off at the mouth online. So no, I'm not refereeing anymore. I like being a loudmouth better.
Nice.
Bill's got the second most famous ass in all of Pennsylvania MMA. If you've watched enough episodes, and you'll get to it because you've been watching through in preparation for this, so we appreciate that. But
I did hear a little bit
cool. Just reminding everybody, if you have a comment or a question for Bill, Sandy, hit the comments. We'll flash them up. They can answer them. It's fully interactive. We'll get to you. Sometimes we don't see them right away, but that's what we're doing. So what's been going on? You're just up there teaching and doing your training thing now, or?
Yeah. So you sort of did that in the intro. So I'm a management consultant. I sort of help small businesses grow, I guess would be the main thing I do. A lot of education and marketing and that kind of stuff. But I like to do some physical training. So I try very, very seriously to get anybody that I'm working with to do some pads with me, really just to get them, in the ring and sort of give them a little bit of that piece of my life and that sort of hard training. And I find, with any exercise, you get somebody sweating and all the endorphins are running and that sort of stuff. The brain fires up and, everybody, you get rid of the frustrations and you end up having some better conversations. Like some of the best chats I have with clients is sort of getting sweaty with them. And then after, then talk life and business and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's common. We actually touched on that. Me and Sandy were talking, Bill, we got some stuff going on that we're working on with supporting men's mental health because we feel like it's an important message and we want to get behind it 100%. So we got some stuff in the works behind the scenes on that. But yeah, it's definitely been in the conversation this week. So we've been having about, Bill, and just if you get your comment on this, because you don't talk a lot about your training days, but like have a hard day, hard week at work, man, that hour session in the afternoon sometimes makes all the difference mentally for guys. And I know one of your questions that you always ask guys on here is, what's your state? What's your mental state? How is this? How is, like, because it's now coming in the forefront. We're able to talk about it as men a little bit more. And the stigma's starting to go away a little bit. And, but comment to you back to, I said, my long-winded question, like what kind of mental state did it help you get in just the ability to train, let alone not nerves so much before the fight, but what did training help you cope from? Or was it a coping mechanism actually?
It's a great question. I'd say it's nuanced and layered and that sort of stuff. But, I'm going to say, I'll almost answer it backwards. What I miss most about training for fights is that consistent, hard training. And, it doesn't matter what's going on the way to the gym. After you're done, you're a better person. It just doesn't matter. Now, when you're training for a fight or even, trying to stay healthy between fights, it just keeps you straight. I don't think there's any other way to say it. And I think everybody in this this call here knows exactly what that's like. I would say the biggest struggles in my life, I did a lot of weight cutting. So like with the kickboxing career, I got to fight everywhere, all over the planet, everywhere but South America. And the coach I had that was driving the majority of that career, he was pretty happy to jump my weight around, and I was pretty happy to do it at the time. So I, all the different kickboxing organizations, heavyweight might be 205, 215, 220, 225. And so I remember like fighting at 240, and then next fight was 195, back up to 220, back down to 195, and then just yo-yoing the whole career. The valley after a fight, so it's all uphill towards the fight, and there's lots of, little, bumps and bruises. You're going through that, but, you're crescendoing to a major event, and, win, lose, or draw. After that event, there's a crash. And that was the, and you're going from eating super healthy and trying to make weight and, et cetera, to that crash after. Just everything happens, you're eating like crap, maybe drinking, whatever. And then you're not set up for whatever the next fight is. And I think we see this all the people. Tyson Fury, I know Mickey Ward in boxing is famous for getting really out of shape and that sort of stuff. Tyson Fury obviously went through some bad stuff. So yeah, like later in life now, it's trying to figure out how to have that consistent hard workout and not hit those valleys, really.
Bill,
I remember the days, like you were saying, you lead up to the fight, and the worst is if you lose the fight. Those next 3 days when you get home on Monday and realize you gave it your all and you lost, that's a real low. It's a mental challenge to go back to the gym and like trying to, after you lost, if you lose on like a Saturday night, Sunday, you're sitting there and you're like, why am I even fucking doing this? Monday, you're like, oh my God, I let everybody down. And it's like, it takes a strong mental upswing to get all that out of your head and go at it as hard as you can for the next one. And you know what? You could have trained as hard as you possibly could have. You could have done everything you can to win that fight. And sometimes people are just better than you. And there was nothing you could have done in that time that was going to enable you to win that fight. And that's hard mentally to get back.
Yeah. Well said. I'm thrilled that we're having this chat, gents. It's great.
Yeah, I was kind of stoked for this one all week. Me and Sandy we kind of reconnected. Because when did you stop reffing, Bill?
About 2 years ago. I was done with it. It was my last fight.
And you were still kind of strike off when we were all down there in Virginia. That was the tail end of what you were kind of doing, or you did a few. I mean, you clearly probably did a few after that, because that was, I think, 2016 was our last show down there. 2017.
Yeah, so 2017. Yeah, I think that's when we met. Garrett, was that strike off event, and
it was one of the later ones because we had already done the arena at George Mason, and then we went back to the smaller arena where I met you, which would have been like 16, 17.
Yeah.
How long after that? You were done a little bit after that, right, Bill?
Yeah, it wasn't too long. About a year. I refereed for about a year and a half. I think I was done around 2020. So maybe 2 years after that.
So you would have been refereeing that event that I was at?
Very likely. Very likely. I refereed a lot.
No,
of
yeah, he
strike
was
force.
for sure, because almost every one that we were down there, that's how I got to know Bill, because the story with me and Bill was Bill lives an hour from me. And up in our area, you're talking the distance down, just to give you some correlation, like Annandale to Fairfax, maybe a little bit longer, like, nice 30-minute traffic drive, 45-minute traffic. Like Bill's about an hour from me. And I met Bill, first saw Bill fighting up here in Pennsylvania, because we're in the same area. And then, I go an hour and kind of became a fan. It's the local guy. Started and then I just kind of stopped going to local shows and started paying attention to everything else. And Bill stopped fighting. Well, then I pop up in Virginia and holy shit, there's Bill Bookwalter. That's the Manheim Strangler. Like, it was just one of them things as a fan in the early stages, because when I got the job for Strike Off, I was still very much a fan. I had just injured, my amateur fight was canceled. Like, I had already gone through 2. Like, there was a bunch of stuff going on. And that's when I kind of found the business side and started promoting and stuff. And it was just weird that Bill just kind of popped up, and we've just kept in touch all these years. And now that he doesn't have his muzzle on anymore, he's allowed to,
big time.
you still got to rein him in a little bit, but he's allowed to trash people on the internet again. So no, just the insight, man. Like I said, this is my favorite part of the week. There's not, aside from throwing up in a trash can, going through training, outside of training, I've never had a bad, even on a shit night at a show, I've never had a bad night at this sport. And it's just something that's always like this is just fun for us, man. And I'm glad you're here, because me and Sandy have had the same relationship as you, just along the way, just chopping it up. And
it's like cool, I said, Sandy, I was never groomed for this. I was a guy that was sitting at a bar one night in Lancaster watching Sean Salmon head kick, or watching Rashad Evans head kick Sean Salmon, knocked him out. Said, I think I want to try this. I was literally just a fan who popped off on the internet. So I got in there fighting. And the next thing I know, one day I'm looking to my right and left, and Bruce Buffer and Joe Rogan are standing to my right and left. I'm like, wow, that escalated quickly. Wow. I had no idea how the fuck I got there. So I did everything I want. Now I'm just back to being a fan again. I was just a regular guy, who decided to try this shit out, and kind of panned out.
That's your fun little like Bill fact for like, we bring it up a couple of times, but it's really cool. It's surreal, and it kind of just relates. Like, you're like, that one time I blinked and I was just standing there between Rogan and Buffer. This guy right here was a sparring partner for the Gypsy King at one point in his career. Nice. So that's a little Sandy tale to tell.
I could imagine, Sandy, I could imagine one day when you first decided, hey, I'm going to strap up my pads and my gloves, and I'm going to do this. You don't start out saying, hey, I'm going to be a world champion one day. That's just something you're like, holy shit, how'd I get here? Or you're in the ring with Tyson Fury sparring with him, You're like, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah, listen,
Justin Trudeau is listening. Don't curse. Don't curse. Justin Trudeau is listening. We're media now. Bill, remember, we're media. We have a certain standard to uphold, and Canada doesn't approve of this type of fuckery.
So you got to do a couple rounds with Tyson Fury, Sandy? What's that like, man? That's pretty cool.
Well, to your point first, absolutely, there was no intention or thought towards that world championship. I was lucky enough to just, I'm not going to do the humble thing and say, oh, I was just lucky. I mean, there was a lot of damn hard work, but I happened to luck into meeting some of the coaches for the Canadian national team very early in my career. And then, they pulled me in, and there happened to be an easier path to beating the current Canadian champ in the heavyweight division or whatever, and yada, yada, yada. So it worked out. And then I got pretty hungry for wanting a world title for several years, and it worked out. Tyson Fury, I swear to God, it was like one of these lulls between fights. I had moved back. I'd lived around the world. I was back in Ottawa, Canada, and this was before his Steve USS Cunningham fight. Cunningham was mostly a cruiserweight. I don't know, but this is the match they set up for his first sort of debut over here in the U.S. I think he was like Long Island or Rhode Island, the fight was. And Ottawa, Canada is our capital, sort of a little left of Quebec and Montreal, a little, anyway, upstate New York, kind of above there. And just one of the owners of one of the big boxing clubs in town called me up, said, I need you for some sparring. I said, dude, I am out of shape. I just coming off a flow. I'm, fat and I'm not interested. And he's like, no, come on down. I just need somebody to move around. Never heard of Tyson Fury before. Googled him on the way to the gym. I was like, oh, this guy's good. He had a decent record. And I was like, F. Oh, fuck. Yeah. I was like, fuck, whatever. Anyway, got there, and it was just him, Peter Fury, who's his uncle, and then his Peter Fury's son, or Tyson's first cousin, which was now Huey Lewis Fury. Check him out if you want. I ended up becoming Huey's major, like I was his prime sparring partner for his debut, his pro debut. He just won the European title, a bunch of other titles and that sort of stuff. I'll be blunt, the first day in the ring with Tyson Fury, I can get in and hang with pretty much any heavyweight on the planet as far as sparring, kickboxing, boxing. You know, I've taken some beatings with some, you know, some of the top of the food chain throughout my years, this sort of stuff. Tyson's footwork was so next level, I couldn't touch him. I'd never, ever, ever, ever yet, then, still, in shape, out of shape, but I'd never been in the ring with someone that I couldn't touch. It was just, he didn't want you to touch him. He wasn't there. It was unbelievable footwork.
What's he go about? 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 6'8", something?
Yeah, and he is that tall.
I imagine he could keep you at bay with his punches, you know.
He
you could even get.
He was exactly that, but like, and all of that, and what we all think. But the thing I like to tell folks that really know the fight game is his movement was ridiculous. His footwork, he just, you know, he juke and jive, and just couldn't get anywhere near him. It was incredibly. I've never been so humbled in the ring in my life.
Well, for all the haters out there, because you know we can't stand the haters and the people that call people casuals. The MMA guy touched him. No offense to Sandy or anything he's done, and not to take anything away from Sandy Pembroke.
Hey,
notable Canadian sports luminary, but the MMA guy touched him.
Hey, I and you know what? I'll follow my sword. Anybody that asked, anybody that talked, anything I said online, I said, folks, I'm paying. I'm going to watch the fight, but Ngannou is not going to touch Fury. And shit.
Yeah. Hey, Leo stopped in. What's up, Leo? Thanks for stopping in, bro. Appreciate you. He said, that's wild. I can't imagine not knowing what I'm walking into than having Fury show up. Yeah.
True story, man.
Sandy, I'm with you. I'm with you too. I didn't think Ngannou had any chance at all. You know, I really didn't. I thought he's gonna get dusted.
Yeah.
I mean, thanks, while you're here, you've got the most boxing credo probably of anybody that we've had on the show thus far. I'm not a big boxing fan. I respect the art. We've talked about this in length. The stuff that's going on with Misfits, I think it's got its place, but it is what it is. I know how boxing purists feel. How did you feel when they read those scorecards on that fight?
You know, having been on the wrong side, so I'm going to be blunt, and with all due respect, I've done some ref and bill, not at the pro level, but amateur level kickboxing and boxing. But no, sorry, just kickboxing. I'm sorry, but I got my reffing certificate for amateur boxing. But you know how they build people in boxing. You know, you got the A side and the B side, and you know a lot of boxing judges are asleep at the wheel and they're not even watching the fight, or they're watching it as a fan because they've already decided before the fight starts who's going to win. So,
I've been very vocal in the show. I said, I've watched boxing before. I'm a very bad boxing judge. So the way I saw that fight, I could see it going either way. I could see how people would have said Ngannou won, and I could see how people would have said Fury won, and you can make a case for both, you know. The boxing rounds are sometimes there's such a fine line in order to decide who gets that 10 and who gets that 9.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And it's I'll just say it's crooked. I
mean, I've literally watched shows recently at the Apex where there's less going on in the background and the way they have the lighting in the Apex. I've literally watched shows in the Apex where it's me, you know, we're the three judges. We're sitting there and you know, the fight is our webcam, and you got a guy that's doing this.
Yeah.
So what are you watching? Or much like we've alluded to, we had Nick Gonzalez on the show, good friend of the show, Nick, the Ghost down in Austin, Texas. He was in the game for 23 years, as a fighter, and then now is in the state of Texas as a judge and a ref. And he related to a story about how he was a judge and he had the crowd, the kids' family sitting behind him. Well, the kid hits a clinch and starts banging knees on this guy. First one hit. Second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one looked great. They weren't doing anything. They weren't connecting. It was, you know, to an uneducated person. And that just goes to show you how clearly they're a little bit more biased. It's their guy, but it just goes to show you how it's perception. It's depending on where you're at. Sandy, you got a comment here from your buddy Brad Landry. That's for you, buddy.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you stopping in, Brad.
We went
Happy
to college.
Thursday.
Appreciate it. We went to college together.
At the X.
Yes, at the almighty X. Thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, no worries. So I guess we'd be remiss. Everything going on other than Dan Hooker. You guys saw the Hooker thing, right?
I didn't. I think you mentioned it, but I didn't.
Hooker, yeah, Hooker's out. Oh, last night? Before? No, 2 nights ago. Hooker's out with an arm injury.
Yep.
I saw something. Jalen Turner, Christopher Rothstein, buddy of ours. He is a Game Bred boxing announcer. Jorge's promotion down there in Florida. Shout out Chris. He posted earlier. I think it was Jalen Turner. RDA had tweeted. I posted last night. RDA had tweeted, I can make 65-70, I think is what it said. Yeah. I'm game, that was the first thing that popped out in my head close to Hooker. I don't know. I don't even know. Hold on. Just for shits and giggles. I don't even know where Jalen Turner is ranked.
Well, we got a friend of our show, Sandy, Jared Gordon was on a couple show ago, actually. And he had fought to a no contest with Bobby Green. And, in his opinion, a lot of other people, he was winning that first round till they clashed heads. Yeah. And then he got quote unquote finished. But then the commission decided, that a missed foul led to the end of that fight. So they called it a no contest. I'm sure the UFC would have to pony up and put a little extra cash in his pocket. I don't know. I'd love to see Jared get a run at that, Shout out Jared.
He deserves it. I'm going to pop this up, Bill, just because you always give the quickest and greatest insight. So we got Bobby Green down here. He was fighting number 9, Dan Hooker. Jalen Turner just dropped one. But from what I read, and if it's a fit, I didn't double check this. So we're taking Chris's word because he's usually pretty good with it. Jalen Turner only ranked number 12. And honestly, Bobby Green's trying to make that title run. And I think he's only got one left in him. So I don't, with this one, correct. I'm guessing if he takes this, he'll be owed one. And I'm sure he'll catch it on the back end somewheres.
Well, let me see. Would you say Green was ranked number 9?
Green's 13. Hooker was 9. Right, here we go.
Okay,
Green's so 13.
Who's 8 and 7?
He's booked in Austin already. I'm going to mutilate it. Just Armand and Fiziev 7. He didn't have anything booked either, I don't think, does he? Or is he out with something?
Fiziev and Green, that would be a banger. I'd watch that.
Yeah, yes. I don't think they're going to jump. They're not jumping. I mean, I don't like the fact that they're jumping Bobby Green from 13 to 12 on this, but especially when St. Denis just fought. Like I said, Anyos was the first thing that jumped out at me, right? Or like one ranked higher than Hooker. I don't know. Like I said, it's not my decision to make.
Now they'll figure out. You know what? They'll figure something out here.
What's up, Mary? How you doing? There's somebody I went to school with. She went to high school with me.
What was the reason Hooker pulled out? Is it something he just
arm injury?
A week or two to get by?
I read an arm injury. I didn't look into it because again, it's been crazy going holidays and such. Mm-hmm. I read arm injury, and then I read something that said recurring, and I remember him having an injury before, but again, I haven't looked into anything. I've kind of just been honestly, I was digesting the PFL interview for Monday, really trying to piece together. I want to me and Sandy kind of been going back and forth on it all week.
All right.
I know you got your opinions on it. So can I kick it off?
Go ahead.
I'm going to let you guys talk after this, but I was watching this a few weeks ago and you and I did get into this, Price. I was watching this a few weeks ago and I saw Jake Paul, calling himself the owner of the PFL or one of the owners. He got his brother as the owner of Prime that's sponsoring the UFC. And then we got Francis going to fight, So all of the big name, what did you call it? Like the Gong Show boxing stuff?
What the fuck? Jesus Christ. I can't think of the word. The spot.
But,
no, it's again, I prefaced it earlier. It's got its own lane.
Yeah.
And I think that these guys are kind of carving it. And it's just got its own place, man. That's like there's people out there that are fevered for this power slap.
And when I'm and I heard you guys talk about that. I listened to your podcast on the other day. It was great chat. But so let me just do this, and I'm sorry if I sidetrack myself there.
No, you're
good. You got Jake Paul, kind of the biggest sort of boxing influencer out there right now, drawing in all kinds of fans that are not, fight fans or, that kind of stuff. So that whole audience. You got the Nagano Fury thing. Then you got his brother sponsoring the UFC with Prime. And then he's, one of the owners of PFL, and then PFL and Bellator merge. It seems like, the UFC has the stranglehold and will continue to be, the major brand for MMA for a very long time. But I think we're going to get a lot more eyeballs and a lot more pay-per-view sales going over towards the PFL period. Like if they can get Nate Diaz going over there to fight Jake Paul in some kind of mixed rules thing, that kind of stuff, I think they're going to drag a lot of eyeballs. And they've got that, whatever his name is there, the owner, like a real serious business guy, real strategic thinker. He's not the face that Dana White is and all that kind of stuff, completely different thing. But I think we've got a real major disturbance in the force.
Well, and that's what I wanted to bring up too. Like, I've watched the PFL, friends of the Micah Terrell, Daryl Horcher, PA fighter. Like I've watched the PFL because I've tuned into the PFL. It's, DC based. It's kind of in our area. I was excited. WSOF. I watched that. Like, but the PFL, you tune in. It's just this. It's not. You can't be a co-leader, and you can't say that you're. And I get it. Like as an entrepreneur, you see what somebody's doing, you figure out what they're doing, and you scale it to where you're at. Yep. Like it's easy to start a promotion, and we talked to Ryan Middleton about it from 247. Shout out our favorite Pittsburgh promotion, but no. It's you see what they're doing and you scale it down, but you don't talk about it at every turn. You don't call yourselves co-leaders. Like you shut up, you strap in and you do the work and you be prepared to lose a lot of money on the way to doing it. And It's going to happen. I just saw something else about one the other day. I don't believe anything in the media anyways, but there's all this stuff going on. But like Don Davis was the youngest executive in baseball, worked, helped at some point with DraftKings, and that's huge down here in the U.S. I don't know how big it is up there with you guys, but track record wise, the guy knows what he's doing. The fact that they bought Bellator from Viacom, and this is with a little bit of stuff I know about business. I'm sure Sandy, you can resonate with this or at least have your input. But Viacom, Paramount, whatever you want to call it, sold Bellator to PFL, but it was a stock deal. You don't do stock deals unless you're anticipating the growth of this. To same thing Portnoy did with Barstool when he bought Barstool back from Penn. It's a stock deal. So Penn knew without their restrictions and without their government sanctions, he was going to be able to take Barstool to the next level, and then they make money off of it that way through stocks. So smart business people are making these decisions, and clowns on the internet are negating it. But it makes sense when you think about it that way, because Paramount didn't want to put money into it. Showtime, all the same thing. They didn't want to put money into it. They haven't wanted to put money into it. If you look back to Bjorn Redney, if anybody remembers Bellator under Bjorn Redney, Scott Coker grew it from where Bjorn Redney had it. And Scott Coker's been around, Strikeforce, K1. So like his track record speaks for itself. So I think with the proper backing, I'm excited to see what happens. Again, you got to give this a year to pan out. It's the MMA promotion business. Stuff happens. As much as I've really appreciated everything that Alliance MMA was doing, there's nothing. So you got to give it time, just like everything else in this business. It's not, you don't respond to stuff happening now. You wait and see how a year goes from now.
Well, see, my thing on that is like, I listened to that video, or I listened to that interview with Davis that you sent, okay? And I did like the one thing he was saying, okay, the problem that I used to have with Bellator is they throw a good card or two and then they would disappear for 2.5 months. Can't do that. You have to keep the content. You have to keep people interested. If you had an amazing card, you need to have a card the following week or two so you can recap and like keep people's attention, and you're working towards something. My only reservation with this whole thing, like you said, man, there's people smarter than I am doing this. This is basically taking say you're looking at the champions of the XFL and the champions of the Canadian Football League, and you're playing them to see who's better, and one wins. Okay, now what? What are we working towards? What's it mean? What's it, the UFC has a whole structure. The UFC is the NFL. They got a stranglehold on this thing. On any given month, you're seeing 2 or 3 shows a month, and that's not even including Dana White's Contender Series on Tuesdays when it's around, or his Looking for a Fight series. They just keep content in your face all the time, and it's like, okay, so you have Nate Diaz fight Jake Paul, and people do tune in. I'll watch it. Hell, somebody wins, then what? What are we doing with that? What are we doing with that? Then Jake Paul.
And that's why PFL, the spectacle side, that's why I said when you're calling yourselves industry co-leaders, your product that you're delivering to your customers, your consumers, is not the same thing as the people you're saying you're co-leading with. UFC, through the ESPN deal, through everything for the last 30 years, say what the fuck you want to say. Sometimes Dana White is wrong. I'm not one of these people that, Dana White is notoriously wrong. Remember, women won't be in MMA. Remember that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That soundbite bit him in the ass. Dana's not wrong. Dana is a hustler. You try shit. Sometimes you fuck up. You fall down 7, get up 8, learn from your mistakes, all that shit. Like it just, that's why it chaps my ass, because people are and again, people are allowed their opinions, but just like the PFL Bellator deal, people forget this is like the 5th time this has happened. This isn't, it's groundbreaking. Yeah, it's groundbreaking because ain't shit else happened this week. But I mean, you're talking Zuffa bought Pride because it made business sense. Strikeforce scooped up Elite XC, and if you remember far enough back, people like Gina Carano, Robbie Lawler, and Nick Diaz all came from Elite XC, and that was like the Alliance MMA before Alliance decided to get together. Elite XC was gobbling up everything, and then WEC with UFC, they didn't have the lower weight classes. WEC gate. It's like you're literally just seeing these cycles of things happen over and over again, and especially now you're into it with guys that buy and sell companies for a living. Like, again, going back to the stock deal, like there's so much of this that intrigues me that we can devote probably 2-3 hours on it, and I want to hear people's opinions on it. But like, everything that's happening is not trend setting, or you're doing something that's already been done, which is fine. Do it again. Do it your way. But again, do it your way. You're not, that's what irritated me the most about all this shit is co-leaders and our roster's 30%. Well, yeah, that makes sense. You just expanded your roster. So guys that don't want to fight in the league format or make more sense to sell pay-per-view super fights with, go over to Bellator and fight there. And you might have guys in Bellator that would perform better in a tournament. So you have best of both worlds now. But what you don't have is a standalone MMA organization that consistently provides the same thing to their consumers, that new audiences know what they can expect, that the general casual fans that just tune in because there's nothing on tonight on ESPN, that have ESPN Plus, that want to check it out. Those are the people they're targeting.
When Christy and I were watching this interview together, I'm looking, dude, there are fighters in the PFL and Bellator that could win fights in the UFC. That's not even a question. There's guys in there that they could win fights. I'm talking the branding. You're talking Walmart versus Salvation Army as far as the branding goes. A lot of the guys that were in the UFC that slipped down to, there's not a lot of guys that leave the UFC because they're good enough, and the UFC does. Maybe Shane Burgos was one, but even he's had marginal success over there in the PFL. A lot of times, the UFC fighters that the PFL and Bellator are getting their hands on are guys that lost 2 or 3 or 4 in a row in the UFC. So you're getting. I don't want to be disrespectful. I'm not calling them damaged goods. But we've seen that they're 1-4 in their last 5 in the UFC, and now they're fighting in the PFL.
Are you sure you're not calling them damaged goods, Bill?
Their marketability towards being the best in the world is damaged. Okay,
I agree.
So I want to see, I think the PFL and Bellator, they should concentrate on their own up and coming stars. Yeah, no, I don't want to call them damaged goods, but I'm saying the marketability, Dana White's marketability is the best fighters in the world fighting the UFC. They want to be world champions. a lot of times when these PFL, when they sign these guys and then they're going to try and headline a pay-per-view card with them, it's like you might want to try and, Dana White created his own stars. He created his own brand. The WWF, all Dana White did was follow Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon can make anybody a star he wants to. Now, obviously, that's a scripted format about who wins and who doesn't. But if you get a push from the promotion and they want to highlight you and give you the right fights to make you look unbeatable, Dana White can do that. And he's very good at that. He could put anybody on a 2 or 3 fight losing streak by the way he matches them up. Who is it? Patty Pimblett. I remember Patty Pimblett used to get into it with Ilya Taporia. Ilya Taporia would wreck Patty, but he would derail that whole hype train. You know what fight Dana White's not going to make? Patty Pimblett versus Ilya Taporia. Because he's creating that star by giving him the right matchups. Yeah. And he is trying to give him Tony Ferguson's name this next upcoming fight, So, but point being is what I'm talking about. I want to see if the PFL and Bellator don't so much focus. They got a great guy over in the belts, Patchy Mix. That guy's he's top notch. You know what I mean? Promote that guy. Headline. Don't sign a guy who went 1-4 in his last 5 fights in the UFC and try and headline a pay-per-view with that guy. Create your own stars. I want to see. I was watching an interview that Garrett sent. That guy said they're gonna try and put out a ton more events. I think he said 3 or 4 times more events than they did in last year. Because that's the thing with the PFL is the last I remember watching the PFL is they were doing the semifinals. Now they're getting ready to do the finals for the $1 million tomorrow night. But when I watched these semifinals, I'm guessing that was 6-8 weeks ago, maybe. I need more.
Yes, they're Black Friday cards tomorrow. They do that every year. Real quick, just to stop you, Bill,
Yep.
Leo. Thanks again for stopping in, Leo. You hear about the pay from these smaller organizations paying many fighters more than the UFC. Do you think it cuts in their ability to grow? I know that for a fact not to be true, and I don't know consistent details of every contract, but I got a hold through people of 2-1 contracts. One was for a debut, and again, one does different sports, but I'm 99% sure the person gave me this as adequate as a source and gave it to me and said it was for a kickboxing fight, and it was a 15 debut contract. UFC minimums now is 10-10. On top of, and I have the numbers and I could pull them up. I don't have them right now, but one future show we bring it up. This Venom sponsorship deal, again, doesn't same with the Reebok. It doesn't take into consideration. It takes into consideration the amount of fights. So you have guys that are 2-3 fights into their contract that aren't Bobby Green. I think Bobby Green's 50,000. That covers media for the week. When you see these guys signing the posters, all the little extra stuff that UFC wants them to do besides fight. That little sponsorship money is it goes towards that. So guys like Bobby Green, guys with more than I forget the number. Like I said, we'll touch base on it again, but no, Leo, I personally, here's the deal. Very few people get a free agency aspect that are on their contract. Like they become a free agent and they're kind of doing things. Look at Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson really wasn't doing much in his career when his contract came open. So there wasn't a deal made and he went to the PFL. Derek Lewis just re-signed. Like there's very few people that choose to walk away. So the amount of numbers that stay, I believe the UFC roster I just posted is like 760 now. Out of those 760, how many people yearly leave? And then the opportunities are always coming up for more guys to step up to replace the old guard that's in a year that's got a year or 2 left, or the guys that got 2 or 3 fights left that aren't coming back. So again, fighter pay, we can devote a whole hour to fighter pay if we wanted to.
Well, see, here's the deal with that too. Say you're going in, you have 2 offers on the table. One, the UFC is offering you $12,000 to fight, $12,000 to win, and one, the PFL is offering you $12,000 to fight and $12,000 to win. If you go on a 3-fight winning streak in the PFL, you're probably making 20 and 20. You go on a 3-fight winning streak in the UFC, you're probably talking 50 and 50, 60 and 60. So if you're starting out with basically a bottom level deal on either promotion and you believe in yourself and you go on a 3-fight winning streak, you want to go on a 3-fight winning streak in the UFC.
Well, and let's not forget, you've talked about it. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. It was witnessed on the air the other last month, 2 months ago with Dana White Contender Series, where both guys got their bonuses at the end of the fight. Like Dana has handed out bonuses to people that, again, I don't know the legalities on taxes or whatever it takes, but I've watched people open bonus checks because they've taken fights short notice, or their guy, a manager opens a check because their fighter took the fight on short notice. They got their, win money. They got a little bit there. They got their show money. And then a little bit later, something comes in the mail or something's given or whatever the situation is. But I can account for 2 or 3 that I know of personally through other people or have witnessed with my own eyes. Bill's talked about that before. So
hey, after the Daniel Cormier John Jones fight, where the first one where Cormier lost, Daniel Cormier is very open about this. Dana White walked in the locker room and gave him a check for $1 million. Just, because, that's not happening anywhere else. So, there is this big internet rumor that all these organizations are paying all these guys all this money. And I've heard Dana White get on the phone or get on the microphone before and say, hey, he said, anybody can do this. If you want to get in there, if you want to pay a guy $3 million a fight, knock yourself out. Get in there and do it. This isn't something anybody can start an MMA promotion. You know what I mean? So it's like, if somebody is so upset about fighter pay, man, go show them how it's done. It's and I do, man. I'm for the fighters. I want to see everybody get paid more. I really do. But at the same hand, like I said, it's what I don't know what the final numbers on Francis Ngannou were, what he got paid for that, but I know the pay-per-view did 70,000 buys.
In the U.S., that was the U.S. numbers.
True. In the U.S.,
foreign
correct.
change worldwide. You got to remember too, people don't understand this, and this is another caveat to the PFL thing. PFL in Europe right now, I don't know if anybody's listening, but we got a couple fans that listen in from Europe, Ireland, and stuff. PFL is big in Europe. We as Americans don't know about it because the TV deal that's structured with PFL for Europe is only, that's why Cedric Doumbé, there's people that we're not seeing as fighters that, so you're not seeing the entire picture. I don't know what's it like up there. Can you guys, what's your exposure like up there to the PFL?
Honestly, it's a lot of UFC up here. I mean, you guys are saying the right things. I mean, they're not going anywhere for a while. The PFL and Bellator were, as they were, very, very secondary options for all of us.
Yeah. And again, as I stated, PFL, Bellator, I'm excited. More options for fighters, just more options for fighters. And that's really what it boils down to. And if they could take this and expand their roster and make another product, that's fine. But again, like I said, you're in your kind of your own lane here because you got Francis Ngannou versus Deontay Wilder in a mixed rules fight possibility in Saudi Arabia. That's not MMA. Same way you take a diehard PFL or a diehard MMA fan that's been watching for 30 years and you take a diehard boxing fan that's been watching for 30 years and just show them bare knuckle boxing. It's different. It's its own thing. It's its own lane. Shout out to David Feldman for all the cool shit coming in 24. I'm stoked for that too. We saw mutterings of a Fox deal. We saw mutterings with stuff with the Zone. It's getting legal in more states. Between that, Game Bred bare knuckle MMA, which I don't know if you checked that out, Sandy, but that is just something that was crazy. That was crazy. Yeah, I mean, again, one does offer 3 different sports, so you have that. But again, one is not the UFC. Yes, the UFC has their own little grappling thing on Fight Pass, attached to it, but it's not the UFC. It's just a different product.
I have to agree. I mean, the UFC is not going anywhere, and nobody's coming to knock them off of their title chair. What I think what we're seeing though is just you're talking about bare knuckle, ONE FC, that kind of stuff. We're just seeing combat sport growing. I think we're seeing the heyday of combat sport, and that's pretty fantastic. Looking back at my career, I'll tell you. So in Canada, let's say 99, 2000, 2001, I'd go to a party. I was a kickboxer, a little bit of boxing, but pretty much identified as a kickboxer. And I go to a party. 7 people didn't like me. So 4 of them thought I was a barbarian. 2 thought it was silly. 1 kind of was, maybe a bit of a jock and thought, okay, cool, you do a sport too. And then 1 person was like, oh, cool, I like this. It wasn't until that Ultimate Fighter show and, the big finale with Bonner Griffin. After that, I go to a party and people would want to talk about fighting. And I wasn't a pariah or, the bad boy, but it was actually interesting. Now, I think nowadays those numbers get even better.
Somebody popped in real quick. What do you think of Patty the Batty? Bill?
Take one, Sandy. I'll go after Sandy. What do you think, man? What's your read on Patty the Batty?
Well, you know what? I like the personality that he is. You know, he's got something that's got into the hearts and minds of a large part of the world. He's exciting to watch fight. And then as a fighter, I think there are some limitations to where he's gonna go. Like he's not cruising to a championship in 2024.
No.
Yeah, agree with Sandy. Patty the Batty, huge UK star. As long as you match him correctly, he can go 3-1 in 2024. You know, maybe 4-0, but you got to be matched correctly. You can't throw him in there with Ilya Taporia. You can't throw him in there with the top dogs. But you know, a happy crowd is an active crowd, is a attentive crowd. Patty the Batty, and you know what? That is him. It's not like Colby Covington where he made up some character. Patty the Batty he's who you see. You know, that's his energetic prance out to the cage, whatever he does, getting the crowd all hyped up. That's him. So I think Patty the Batty, he's good for the sport. He's not as good as Conor McGregor was, raw fighting ability. But I think the UFC knows what they're doing with him, and they know not to throw him into too deep water. And I really do think they're trying to give him Tony Ferguson's name. Now, the UFC does not want Tony Ferguson to win this fight coming up here in 2 weeks. Because if Tony Ferguson wins, then you derailed my money train, my UK star, and you're still 1-6 in your last 7 fights. What the hell am I going to do with you after that?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't throw you back in the top 5 guy.
He's a good fighter. And sometimes guys that are top 15 now, that you have these guys sometimes that they come in, and again, this is the chess move aspect of it. Like it always comes back down to the chess moves. You got guys that'll hang around the top 15 for a while. And it's fights that you see sometimes the way they get matched up, it's exciting fights. It's good fights like Sean Shelby, McMaynard, top of the game. This new guy, apparently he's really good. You know, sometimes guys hang around a division for a little while and marinate, and that's by design. Because Patty the Batty now is not going to be Patty the Batty 2 years from now.
Well, you know what? And what is Patty? 24, 25 years old?
He's in it. Yeah, he is. He's not even hit his prime yet. He's got some years left. So let him marinate. Let him get. And I'm not saying by any means pat his record, but you know, there's guys that get paid to sit. I'm not saying somebody hands them a check and says, "Here's 50,000, sit out." But much like guys that take fights on short notice and guys that do favors you do favors for Dana, and you look out for the brand and yourself. Dana, they do not forget about it. Nobody's ever came out and said, I took one for the team and the team. Nobody's ever said that, ever.
Well, it's the Sage. They learned from their Sage Northcutt experience. They rushed that kid along a little. They gave him 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4 really, really favorable fights where he was just an all-around better athlete, better fighter. And then they threw him into deep water, and he kind of got wrecked, you know. And then I forget, he went over to
he went to one and got wrecked by Cosmo Alexander.
Face got broken, like his face got broken. It's like
he just came back.
So being the fact, you know, Sandy, what would you say? 27 to 32 people were in their prime. They hit harder, kick harder, go longer, go stronger. Patty Pimblett's not there, so I kind of agree with what you're saying. You know, maybe a fight or 2 fights a year for Patty Pimblett. I wouldn't rush him along, but I'd keep him improving his skills. And, you know, I'm sure the UFC has sat down and had okay, here's our game plan with you. We see you as a big star, but you're a little young yet. We can't throw you into the deep water because you're going to get messed up. And that's not good for anybody. That's not what we want. That's not what you want. So paid to sit is that's an interesting way to put it. But use him lightly, you know, unless he goes in there and starts wrecking people in like a minute. You know what I mean? Then let his fight career play out the way it's supposed to. Don't rush him along. You know, let him grow into his prime. I agree with you on that one.
You know, what made him when I was watching, you know, just highlights and stuff when he came over or entered the UFC. He's just wild, and he doesn't care about defense. Now, I don't know that I've been watching him closely enough lately, but he's keeping that chin way up, and he's getting hit, and he had a granite chin, so he could do it. but that kind of style we know doesn't last for too long.
Well, what did he say, Sandy? He said, Scousers don't get knocked out. I assure you, you can get knocked out. You're 24, 25, and you got that fresh chin. You're good to go.
Yep.
Well, and look at Justin Gaethje too. Justin Gaethje fought, and no disrespect. I mean, I've been following Justin since he was, backflipping off the cage, knocking Louis Palomino out with leg kick, like TKO leg kicks. He changed 4 or 5 fights ago. We talked about this a couple weeks back. I think we talked about Pope on probably the second show. He changed, and it's not that he changed his style, but he's fighting smarter. He's more composed, and I have a firm belief that Justin might just be one of those biz-bing people that doesn't catch a title till the end of his career, depending on where he stacks up. But again, like we much alluded to with Patty, you bring a guy in a division like that, just now or a year and a half from now, it could make a huge difference in their career when they jump in that division.
Who's that coach he's working with? I can picture him. I just can't think of his name.
Trevor Whitman.
Yes.
Yeah.
That guy. I think that guy sat down and had him talk. He said, you can have probably 2 or 3 more fights fighting the way that you're fighting, or you can have another 7 or 8 and a title run if you shape this up. Don't just go in there and Chuck Liddell style and be like, okay, I accept I'm going to get hit. Let's work on not getting hit, and you still doing the same amount of hitting. Let's see how it plays out. Justin Gaethje's looking good.
Michael John, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, bro, I see you doing this MMA stuff, and it happened the other week, I chose to show him Rory McDonald, Robbie Lawler, another notable Canadian sports luminary. But no, I showed him that fight instead. But the Michael Johnson, Justin Gaethje fight is a fight you show people when you say, what, I want to be lifted off my seat with excitement. You don't tell them who won. You just put the fight on and let them just watch it, because they're either going to be completely turned off by it or they're going to want more, like everybody else when the bug bites you. So, Bill, we got about 10. I know you wanted to keep it close to an hour, so you want to hit this next event. Sandy, get your thoughts on it.
Sure, let's run it down.
You shouted out Rory McDonald. I used to spar with him quite a bit. He's
dude. He was never the same after that Lawler fight, man.
I was sparring him for years before that, but yeah. So when you're sparring somebody and at the same club for a while, heartbreaking to see a fight like that. I as much as I love that fight, I don't watch it anymore.
That fight, I don't think that's the fight he wanted to fight. I think Robbie Lawler drug him into that style of fight.
You know what? That fight would have lasted longer. Rory McDonald didn't quit. I've always said this. Rory McDonald did not quit that fight. Rory McDonald's nose quit that fight because the rest of them was still very much in that fight. Robbie Lawler's lips hanging off. He looks a little Kamzat. That fight, and for what it's worth, Sandy, if you know somebody that knows somebody and you can get me access to pick Rory's brain for an hour, I'd love to have him on. But anyways, I'm sure Bill would too.
But I sent out a bunch of invites. I was telling you about my Facebook problems, but I noticed there was a bunch of current roster UFC guys I was just sending invites to. So yeah, hopefully I can help you guys get a few good guests.
Yeah, no. So I'll throw this up. We're out of it, so we'll go. Oh, I still got the rankings up. Let me pull back here. What do we got coming up, gentlemen? Oh, this is that stacked Austin card coming up. The set, which this is the one we just had the issue with. Let's see if they got her updated yet. Yep, they updated. Yeah, it is Jalen Turner. It's finalized. Okay. So yeah, that's on there. So we'll go down. I want to just to see. Oh, this one's getting Clay Guida. Man, last week we had Jared
Clay
Gordon,
Guida.
not the prelims. Guida. Misha's back. Cody Brundage is fighting. Jakar Close, Joe Selecki.
Yep.
Man, this might be a all-night type of thing. I might have to catch them. Veronica Hardy, I was stoked for her interview the other day, too. I kind of want to see that fight. But yeah, no, prelims. Man, check out the prelims. But no, rounding that out, Clay Guida. So here we go. What do you think, Bill?
Roundtree, he can get this one, man. He's been on a tear lately. He's been finishing a lot of people. This gives him a chance to move inside. This will probably keep him border on that 10 or 11 thing, but oh man, what are the odds on that coin flip? I can't see that little.
Oh, plus 114 for Roundtree and minus 135 for
they're
the
both
Russian.
Around even money, and that makes sense. Oh my God, you're asking to put me on the spot. I would pick.
Nah, well, you know what? I've been a fan of Khalil since Tough. I always can respect the guy's ability in the thing, but when you have in the cage, but when you have a great story to go with it, like everything this guy's overcome. Sandy, this guy was 300 and some odd pounds at one point, completely out of shape. Fun little weird pop culture fact. His dad was like the music manager, I think, or something for Boys to Men or something. His dad was in the music industry when he was younger, and he lost his dad and went through some mental health stuff, and just uses his platform to, again, just like Patty the Batty, hey, if you're having problems, talk to somebody, which I can always appreciate that. But I mean, he's definitely
ferocious athlete.
got some, yeah, he's
I remember watching him on The Ultimate Fighter, and he didn't do much for me. He seemed nice as a guy, but then I think, was he on Rogan or something? And he went and spent a bunch of time in Thailand, and he came back and just put on a Thai fighting clinic for a fight. It was about 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm. His first one back was literally was like a clinic. Yeah, it was literally like a clinic at Tiger. Yeah, it was crazy.
I became a fan that day.
Yes, I became a fan a little bit before Tough. I was sad to see how his Tough run ended, but then he did manage to work his way back in, so that's always good for him. Dustin Stoltzfus, and I'm not really sure.
Soriano wins that one.
Who did he fight? Okay,
Kopylov is a killer.
It was the Brendan Allen. Okay, I couldn't place it. It was the Brendan. He fought Brendan Allen. I saw that one.
Yeah, I think Soriano gets that one. Listen, Stoltzfus got into the UFC. Basically, our buddy Joe Pyfer was giving him the business on Dana White's Contender Series, and Joey hurt his arm, and that's how Stoltzfus got in there. Stoltzfus got front kicked in the face by somebody. I forget who the heck it was. I think Soriano probably gets that one.
Fought a Magomedov, Grant. Was that Gerald Mearshart? That was the one who kicked him in the face, wasn't it?
No. Abus Magomedov kicked him in the face.
Was it? Okay.
It should say head kick or face kick. Something there on the finish.
You know what? I didn't even pay attention to that.
Should say face kick or something. But yeah, Soriano, I believe, gets that one. My buddy Sean Brady versus Kelvin Gastelum. That's a good one. I do believe that was matched for Sean Brady. The UFC would rather have Sean Brady win that one just because Kelvin Gastelum is more heading towards the end. Brady took that bad loss. Not a bad loss, but he took a loss. He wasn't quite ready for Bilal Muhammad just yet. Bilal is a very good fighter. Bilal, however you want to say it. Bilal is a very good fighter. And that was over in United. That was over in Abu Dhabi, and Sean Brady was getting death threats before the fight, and they were threatening his wife, and like that'll take you out of your mental headspace, you know. But I'd be willing to bet Sean Brady probably grapples him to a decision. That's my opinion.
Cool. Rob Font, former champ, Davison. What are we thinking here?
Rob Font is huge compared to Davison.
Oh yeah.
He's Rob Font has the reach, the size. I would, and I'm not dropping knowledge on anybody that people don't know. Rob Font is the favorite, I believe, like minus 180 or something.
Minus 170 to plus 142. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like I'm dropping some hidden gem that like people are leaning towards Rob Font. I think Rob Font has more tools to win that fight. That's just me.
I mean, Rob Font could be making a run. He puts this one out, takes out number 2. He's got an argument for a title shot. Sandy, you got anything? We're just kind of breezing through this like you're not even here.
I'll jump in if I want to say something.
Just tell me to shut up. It's all right, bro. Jalen Turner, Bobby Green. Short notice camp for Bobby Green. He was training for Dan Hooker, so stylistically, I think this is probably a bit different of a fight. Going to be a fight for him.
I like the confidence that Bobby Green is fighting with right now. Yeah, he's believing in himself. If he didn't believe in himself before, man, that knockout of Grant Dawson, I didn't see that shit coming. I thought Grant Dawson was going to win that fight.
He's got, I think, one more run left in him, and I think he knows it. So he's leaving it all out there. Not that he didn't before, but I think it's slightly more.
I mean, a loss. A guy like Bobby Green is always going to have a fan base. People love the way he fights. But a loss would pretty much
cement the door shut.
As far as the title shot.
Well, and let's hold on. Where are we at? Thursday. This dropped Tuesday, I believe. 10 days notice. What do we got left in the month? It's the 27, 8, 10. Yeah, he's taking it in like 10 days notice, or 2 weeks notice. At the end of the day, he just chose to take this fight on 2 weeks notice. I'm almost willing to say that he has like a card up his sleeve taking this fight, because he knows he's at the end of a run. Dana knows he's kind of like, if this isn't it, I don't know what we're going to see out of Bobby Green. For him to take this fight, I kind of think
it's like what Jared Gordon said the other week. If the UFC calls you with something like this, what are you gonna do? Say no? They don't like that word.
True.
Yeah, they don't like the word no when they call you.
Well, and it goes back to, again, another argument, just to bring a point up. There was the Stephen Thompson fight. Stephen Thompson chose not to fight. Stephen said recently when I forget what they booked him, and he's booked in something, I believe, early next year. It has to be early next year. Or maybe next month. I don't know. But Stephen Thompson's booked now, and he said Dana and the UFC made everything right with that previous fight. So, again, sometimes you sit, relax, and they will take care of you in the long run.
Stephen Thompson, because of the history of his career, how long he's been around, the stuff that he's done, he's one of those guys that's just got a little bit of pull. And he's damn near 40, if not 40, 41 years old. He's close. Yeah. He's, I think he's gained a little bit more respect than an up-and-coming fighter from the promotion as far as his ability to say no.
I'll jump in there. I'll say, I fought on a couple of his undercards back in the kickboxing days. Mm-hmm. He's as cool and nice in real life as he seems on TV.
I believe that.
I would not doubt you for one second.
Good guy. Real good guy is the way I would describe him.
And some fun to watch fight.
Yeah.
And then Benil Dariush and Arman. I can't pronounce his name. He's from Armenia. I'm not even going to butcher it. Like, I don't want to do it.
I'll tell you what. Anytime you see that beard and a last name you can't really pronounce, that guy's live. Like, these guys. I'm picking Tarkarian or Sarkarian, however they were saying it. But Benil Dariush, excellent fighter, not bad. But this guy's really up and coming. Who Dariush get? He got finished by somebody.
I'll check it here in a second. I'm looking the Gamrot fight. Okay, I'm more familiar with who I know who kind of.
But he got finished at the top of the food chain. It was Charles Oliveira.
Yeah.
Benil, he's excellent fighter. These Russians, these Armenians, these guys, these hybrid guys coming from over there, they seem to be something else, and man, they're really, really difficult to beat. And
they're starting to take over.
When you wrestle bears since childhood, that happens.
Yeah. Well, you know what? While Benil Dariush was trying his hand at t-ball and baseball as a youngster before he ever even thought of fighting,
this guy was wrestling bears in the woods.
Yeah, these guys are doing this. They've been groomed for this their whole life.
Yeah, he's got to win over Gamrot. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just talking out loud. Go ahead.
No. They're coming from really, really, really tough lives where they grew up a little tougher than these guys, and like we said, they're out there wrestling bears at 5-6 years old, while our kids are learning about safe spaces.
Playing video, learning about safe spaces,
eating Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, right.
Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
I guess, Bill, you got to get out of here because you're still at a family function.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
We're going to throw the housekeeping notes up here real quick. I got to figure out where I'm at. I'm lost. Here we go.
Happy Thanksgiving, Bill.
You too, brother. Hey, if you do me a favor, after he reads these promos, man, tell people how they can follow you, how they can help you out in your career. What's going on? Plug your site. What do you got?
Awesome. We'll do.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, let me go on here. So, presenter of the Fight Show, Pulling No Punches Apparel, for the entire month of November, $10 from their You Have a Choice and a Chance tank tee and hoodie design will be donated to Movember, which is a great nonprofit in support of men's mental health awareness, amongst other men's issues. Tanks, tees, hoodies, koozies, shirts, flannels, whatever. They got a ton of different designs for men and women. PullingNoPunchesApparel.com. Again, we're proud to partner with them. And with that being said, I'll bring this in, and that means that it's time for our referent for the week, which is Bill's weekly look at what's pissed him off in the world of combat sports this week. Again, brought to you by Pull No Punches Apparel, who we're proud to partner with. And check them out, PullNoPunchesApparel.com, and you can go ahead and take it away, Bill, as soon as I get you up here.
All right.
Maybe. There we go.
All right, ref rant. What pissed me off this week in the world of combat sports, the last week's fight between who? Oh my God, I'm going to blank on the names of the fight.
Ogden. I'll give it to you. Hold on.
It was Trey Ogden versus Nicholas Mata, I believe.
Sure, that'll work.
Trey Ogden had dominated the fight for 3 rounds. He was heading into it. He threw on a head and arm triangle, and the referee, Mike Beltran, is an excellent referee. I've had bad calls before, multiple, probably more than I can even remember. We'll bring that up on another show in another time. I got a guy I specifically want to apologize to just because I made a bad call. Okay, but anyway. Slaps on a head and arm triangle. He asks the guy 3 or 4 times if he's all right. The guy doesn't respond because he's defending, which is fine. But the referee stops the fight because, in his professional opinion, refereeing at the highest level, he thought he saw enough to end the fight. Okay, the guy Nicholas Mata pops up afterwards and says, "Oh, I was okay. I was okay." They change it to a no contest outside cage side. I've been in situations where I have made a piss poor call, not intentional, just was new. As a referee, when you make a call to stop the fight, that's it. There is no changing it to. I mean, they screwed Trey Ogden out of a win. Okay, there is, as a referee, and you don't get to go on social media and apologize. The commissions don't even want you talking to the media because you might create a bigger shitstorm than it would have been without it. But the fact that they took that win from the guy and changed it into a no contest, when I had stopped a fight early one time, I begged the commission. I said, I made a mistake. This was too early. And this is Greg Serb. I said, I was too early.
Asshole.
I stopped this fight too early. Please make this right. Because I felt like shit. I cost the guy a chance to win the fight. And when he did rematch this opponent later on, he did win. So I felt even worse about it. Greg specifically told me the only way a fight can get turned to no contest is if I, as a referee, missed a foul that led to the end of the fight or there was an error adding up the scorecards. Your call is your call. You don't take a win away from a guy who's dominated 3 rounds of a fight and say, oh, whoever was sitting out there cage side, I have no idea in their head what justification they had. Sandy, who's been a guest on the show tonight, He's been in there before. If you're getting overwhelmed in the corner and the referee jumps in and stops the fight as you're standing there and you get, standing, they wave the fight off and he looks at you and you go, hey, man, I was fine. The referee doesn't just get to climb out of the ropes, talk to the head table and be like, okay, well, it's a no contest now. Are you kidding me? Bad calls happen. I watch them on NFL Sunday every freaking day. Bad calls happen. If you're a referee and you stop the fight, and it wasn't a foul that led to the end of the fight, or it wasn't an error in the scorecards, your call is your call. Sorry to Trey Ogden, man. I hope the UFC, I think I read online that they did pay you your win money, but these are big time decisions, and I hope he follows the right channels. Sorry, everybody on DraftKings who lost their money or their parlay didn't hit, but Trey Ogden should have got that win. Hopefully he petitions the commission and they do the right thing and give him his win back. You don't just get to change the fight to a no contest because, man, my bad. I stopped it a little early. If you make a bad call, sometimes that's just what it is. So that's this week's ref rant. Done with it.
Nice.
That was, and that's not even because you're jealous of Mike Beltran's mustache.
He's an excellent referee, man.
No, he's if he can do it, and going back, I don't know why, I don't know how, but there's still people bitching about the Erie stoppage. That was a good stoppage. He was out.
He blanked for
it happens.
He blanked for
it happens. You know what I'm saying? It happens at the highest level. They're all. We got something here. I got to grab a hold. We're all human. Nothing's perfect, and
yeah, but just to watch a guy dominate a fight for 3 rounds, and then they take a win from him, which in the UFC is huge. And they, I'm hoping Dana White. I would think Dana did the right thing and gave him his win money. I hope so. But,
I saw something online about that again. Haven't verified it, but again, another example of Dana. Hey, you were fucked. This, that, and the third. Let me take care of you. So, We've had multiple examples of that on the show tonight, but I'm good to get out of here. I know, Bill, you got family to get back to.
I do. Sandy, let's get Sandy plugged here, man. What's your website? How can people help you out?
Well, if anybody, just on my screen name there, Sandy Pembroke. So Google and we'll take you to whatever. I'm fairly active on all the social media channels. I turned my website off years ago, just too much spam coming through. But yeah, so Facebook, Sandy Beach Marketing HQ is the business page. Sandy Pembroke World Champion is the fight page. Just Sandy Pembroke is me. And same thing on LinkedIn or Twitter, that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you have a small business, and I do a lot of virtual meetings and that sort of stuff. So I do some work with some clients down in the US, across Canada, that sort of stuff. Done some stuff overseas, but yeah, available to have a chat and see if I can help you out, help your business grow, help you deal with some of your pain points. And yeah, been doing it for quite 30 years, I guess. So yeah, it's a good time. And the sidebar, I'm still getting the odd offer for a couple of heavyweight boxing fights. So if anybody's out there, I got in pretty good shape this year.
Any chance we see Sandy Pembroke and bare knuckle in 2024?
I don't know if I like it'd have to be really good money. Have to be really good money. I like to tape my hands when I'm hitting a bag.
I got you.
Well, yeah, no, Sandy, for sure. We will have Sandy back on. So if you're here for Sandy, we appreciate you stopping in, everybody from Canada and around wherever. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the U.S. and happy Thursday to everybody else. Maybe Friday, depending on where you're watching from. Appreciate everybody stopping in. Sandy, for sure, we'll be back, and we appreciate you coming on, bro. And me and you will talk here. Give me a shot later if you want. Bill, give me a shot whenever. And next week, guys, if you're still watching and you tuned in for Sandy and you want to come back, we got Brent Primus. Not to take anything away from this gentleman, Brent Primus, who just fought Usman Nurmagomedov for, and I think quarterfinals of the Bellator lightweight Grand Prix.
That was the semifinal.
That was the title fight. Yeah, semifinals. Semifinals, title fight.
The winner was going to the title fight.
Okay, yeah, we're going to have him on next week. All that stuff broke with Usman, which is, of course, Khabib's brother, but the Bellator 155 champ, he popped for a prescription. There wasn't a TUE. So long story is, we're going to get Brett's sides of things. I want to talk to him about it. Let him make his case for Bellator having a future now and seeing what transpires with that. So he's here next week, normal time, 7 p.m. on Thursday. And Sandy, I'll talk to you soon, Bill. See you soon, bud. And everybody else, Fight Show Nation, we're out.